Then Jesus began to tell them that the Son of Man must suffer many terrible things and be rejected by the elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of religious law. He would be killed, but 3 days later he would rise from the dead. As he talked about this openly with his disciples, Peter took him aside and began to reprimand him for saying such things. Jesus turned around and looked at his disciples, then reprimanded Peter. "Get away from me, Satan," he said. "You're seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's." Then, calling the crowd to join his disciples, he said, "If any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross and follow me. If you try and hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake and for the sake of good news, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? And if anyone is ashamed of me and my message in these adulterous and sinful days, the Son of Man will be ashamed of that person when he returns in the glory of his Father with holy angels."
I've escaped to the car. It's not really to keep in with the theme, it's more to get some peace and quiet. Today we're talking about power. Power is so important in our world. Power is part of all of our relationships, between family members right through to international relations. Some people would even look at all of history as a struggle for power. In our society, people are increasingly trying to find power, trying to assert themselves. Why is it that we desire power? Is it for power's sake? Or do we imagine that power will make us feel safer, or give us control, help us to create peace for ourselves? In today's story, Jesus challenges the way of power. He's just been identified by Peter as the Messiah. But he says the Messiah must suffer. He explains to them that he will die in weakness. And Peter can't stand that idea, because weakness can feel shameful And certainly weakness was not the vision that the disciples and other Jewish people had for their Messiah. Peter tells Jesus there's no way he'll let him go and die and be treated like that. And in that challenge to his mission, Jesus sees not just Peter, but also Satan. He tells Peter, the only way to live as a Christian is to give up your power, to lose your life, to take up the cross. There's no other way, and anyone who's ashamed of me, I will be ashamed of them. That's really scary and challenging words. And at this point we should praise God that he was willing to suffer, that he was willing to send his son to die in our place. We have a God who shows his greatest strength in weakness, who is so different from what we experience in the rest of the world. The rest of us grasp at power, and yet Jesus gave up his power and his glory and became vulnerable and weak. And he did this for us. His death on the cross has brought us life. The Apostle Paul would later say, I'm not ashamed of this gospel. It's the power of God for salvation. So what do we do about this? How do we give up our power? How do we take up our cross and be weak in order to honour Christ? Interestingly, the church is experiencing greater and greater weakness, but its response is often a show of strength. I suspect that most of the articles in the newspapers about all the services that the church is providing, about the race to the bottom to compete with the humanists for how many funerals we're doing, to keep on showing everyone how relevant and valuable we are in society, I suspect that's got less to do with the mission of Jesus and more about showing the power that the church still has. But a church that chases power in society will die. The only way that we can live as a church is if we give up our authority, if we give up our power and stop chasing it, and accept the weakness that we have been given. It's the right place for us. But what about in our own lives? How might we live out weakness rather than chasing power? The reality is that all over the world Christians are actually giving their lives today. Apparently Christians are the most persecuted group worldwide. And so people are laying down their lives for the sake of Jesus. That's their cross. But for many of us, it won't be that extreme. Maybe we'll simply have to stop trying to be first. Stop trying to be powerful. Stop trying to always be right. Maybe it'll mean letting go of some of our ambitions and goals. Maybe it'll mean living somewhere we didn't expect to, or doing a job that we didn't expect to have, or making friendships with people that are unexpected. Maybe it means putting the gospel, or our family, or even our church community before career. I don't know what God will call you to give up. I don't know what kind of weakness you will need to live with. But I know that it'll be worth it. I know that letting go of power, losing our lives, will be worth it in the end. Because one day Jesus will welcome us with open arms, unashamed of us, as we have been unashamed of him.